I'm going to go over how to create a character using simplistic shapes. So I'm going to go to Illustrator, select File and New, and this dialog box opens upon creating File New or through launching Adobe Illustrator. We're going to select Web Large 1920 by 1080. You can call the file name anything that you wish, so I'm just going to call it Handbok Vector because I'm going to be creating a character in traditional Korean Handbok. And I'll press Create. So usually I like to have some sort of reference file loaded in. So I'm dragging the photo from my Finder into Adobe Illustrator. Under Properties, you can embed the file by pressing Embed under Quick Actions. The Properties panel can be found under Window and Properties if it's not already docked onto the side. Once you embed it, that will allow anybody that is also looking at your file to see all of the loaded JPEGs and PNGs and external media that you added into the regular Illustrator file. Using my selection tool, I can hold down Shift and at the corner drag inward so that way it scales the item down in proportion. You can zoom in pressing Command plus if you're on a Mac, and Command minus to zoom out if you're on a Mac, or Control plus on a PC and Control minus on a PC. Under my Layers panel, I can double click to rename any given layer, call it Reference, and hit Enter to submit the name change. You can press the plus icon underneath to create a new layer. So the style that I'm going to be creating the illustration in, I'm going to pull this over. It's one that I was already working on earlier, so I had simply selected Edit Copy on the other page, and now I'm selecting Edit Paste on this new page. I'm just going to pull this to the side. So firstly, I'm going to use a skin tone. I can double click into my fill panel on the side and then drag my slider under the color picker to create or pick an exact color, and then press OK when you're happy with it. You can also eyedrop to an existent color by pressing I on your keyboard, and that pulls up the eyedropper, and you can click a specific color. Using my ellipse tool, I'm going to press L on my keyboard and drag outward to create like an approximate oval shape. If I press A on my keyboard for my direct selection tool, I can grab one of the existent anchor points and pull downward. I'm going to also, using that direct selection tool, pull upward on the topmost point and outward on the horizontal points. So this makes the shape slightly more complicated. You can pull on the handles as well to exaggerate any given point. And you can pull up any of the points upward and downwards and use your arrow keys to move it as well. Now what I'm going to do is use my ellipse tool again to create the hair. So I'm going to use a dark color for the hair, press OK, draw out the ellipse shape, and using my selection tool, I can rotate it, pull it outward, and then again using my direct selection tool, shortcut A, can grab the points and manipulate them. Again, you can pull the handles to make the shape more complex. I'm going to do the same for the opposite side, again creating an oval, using my selection tool to rotate. Again, using the direct selection tool, shortcut A, grabbing the points and pulling down. At any point you move something that you don't mean to, or create something that you didn't intend or do not want to keep, you can press Command Z on your keyboard to undo the most recent action. Okay, I'm fairly happy with the hair now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create two eyes. One of the tricks I like to do to sometimes create that like perfectly curved eye, besides using the pen tool, is to swap the fill and the stroke of a rectangle, zooming in and shift selecting the dots on the inside that controlled the bevel points. You can then pull the top so it creates that nice like semicircle shape. You can then use the scissor tool, shortcut C, to create cuts along the top, and then use your V selection tool to delete the bottom. Now that we have that semicircle shape, I can press Shift and W to utilize my width tool, and then grab from the center and pull outward, so it gets more of that like tapering aesthetic. Remember that under properties, you can always select stroke and curve out the bottom points, or round out the bottom points. I'm going to take this shape, hold down Option or Alt if I'm on a PC, and drag out to create the duplicate. Okay, and we can scale these a little bit bigger as well. One thing you'll notice though, that by shift selecting each of these, they're not aligned. So if I go to the properties panel and scroll down, there is an alignment tool that allows you to align the top and bottom, and even center align. So I'm going to select vertical align top, so that way they are nice and even across. I'm then going to create the little nose shape and move the eyes in a bit more closer to each other. So I just selected it, held down Shift, and used my right arrow and my left arrow to move it. For the nose, what I can do again is create another small rectangle. I'm going to eyedrop, pressing I on my keyboard, to the back color. I can double click into the fill and slide the slider down to make it a slightly darker shade, and press OK. Again, I can use my A direct selection tool, shift select the bottom 2 points, and pull inward, so that way it makes a like semicircle shape. Again, you're going to press C on your keyboard and click at the top 2 points, and then use your selection tool to select the top edge and delete it. We can now select the object and swap the fill and stroke, so that way it makes like a nice semicircle. You may decide if you want like a less intensely curved nose, you can use your C scissor tool again to create additional cuts, and then use your V selection tool to get rid of the excess. What I'm going to do again is go to my stroke under my properties panel with the object selected, and then again round cap it. I can use Shift and W again, or my width tool, to increase the width of the shape. So that way you get the cute little indentation of the nose. Next, I'm going to press M on my keyboard, and I'm going to draw out for the mouth shape below. I'm again going to use my V selection tool and move it to be a little bit more centered. And I'm going to swap the fill and the stroke. and then change the color by double clicking on the fill. I'm going to change it to a more pink color and press OK once I'm happy with the color itself. And if I shift select the bottom 2 points, I can pull in another bevel. I can adjust the height with the regular selection tool as needed. And then shift select the top 2 bevel points and bevel them again, but bevel them less than I did the bottom 2 points. So now I'm getting like a simple head. At any point with your selection tool, you can drag and draw out a selection box and adjust the size of the head as needed as well. I can shift select by selecting, holding down shift and clicking another object and moving them up to kind of lengthen that head shape. I can shift select the 2 shapes and unite them together using the Pathfinder Unite option, which is found under Window and Pathfinder. So now that I've united the objects, I'm going to press the minus key on my keyboard to get rid of this extra point right here, which is creating an indentation in the hair. I can use my direct selection tool to pull up on any of these anchor points and adjust the handles. Okay. Now I'm going to add in the eyebrows. So a couple ways you can do this if you're not ready to go ahead and use the pen tool is I can use the line segment tool to draw a line across for where the eyebrow will be. I can set the stroke color to black, and using my plus icon on my keyboard, I can click at the point in between the 2 ends of the line segment. I can use my direct selection tool A to pull up a little bit, and then I can use the bevel point to pull downward to kind of create it more into a curve. If I Command Z, I can decide I maybe want to make the bevel point a little bit more intense of an angle and then pull in. Once I'm happy with the shape that's now a curve, I can go to my stroke panel, again set it to round cap and round corner, hold down shift or select shift and W, and then to kind of increase the width of the front area and the back area ever so slightly. And kind of adjust the width and tapering of the eyebrows a bit. Okay, I'm fairly happy with that eyebrow now. So I'm going to select it, hold down Option if I'm on a Mac, Alt if I'm on a PC, and duplicate it out. I can then go to my Properties panel and use the reflection tool, which allows me to flip it horizontally. The reflection tool can also be found in your toolbar, as we went through in the lecture about all of the Adobe Illustrator tools in the interface. Okay, so now we have a simplistic face shape. I do want to add a bit of eyelashes, so I'm going to use the line segment tool again, draw out a line for where I anticipate the eyelash going, pressing the plus icon on my keyboard to create an extra point between the 2 endpoints. Use my direct selection tool to pull it back, and then using the bevel point to create that curve. Again, I can use Shift and W to increase the tapering of the eyelash, and once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go to stroke. Actually, once I'm happy with that, I'm going to select it, hold down Option, and duplicate it and scale it down. I'm going to select it once more, hold down Option, duplicate it again, and scale it upward using my direct selection tool. And now I can shift select these points, hold down Option to duplicate out, and if I hold down Shift while doing this, that will allow me to maintain the same horizontal level. Now I can again use that flip horizontal tool to pull it in. Okay, so now we have a character with some eyelashes and an eyebrow. And we should make the light blush color for the cheeks. So I'm going to press L on my keyboard for the ellipse tool. I'm going to toggle the fill and stroke. Selecting the fill, I'm going to eyedrop to the skin color, double click, and then adjust the color picker slider to create more of like a pink shade. Now if, again, pressing L on my keyboard, I can hold down Shift to maintain the proportions of a circle to create out the little blush circles. Using V on my keyboard, I can grab the little blush circle and move it as needed. I'm thinking I actually might stretch the dimensions a little bit to make it more around the cheekbone area, like an oval that's centered around the cheekbones. Again, I just selected Option or Alt, dragged outward to create a duplicate, and then brought it to the opposite side. Okay, so now I have the simplistic face, and I will soon go over how to create the outfit.